Welcome back. And moving on to our first segment for today, talking more about meetings taking place in Sharm el-Sheikh and also about efforts just to reach a ceasefire and to end the war. And we know mediators from the United States, Qatar and Turkey, they descended on Sharm el-Sheikh, Egypt, to join negotiations to end the war. Well, over the phone, we are joined by Ambassador Medhat Miligy, former Assistant Foreign Minister. Hello.
Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Ambassador. First of all, could you tell us more about the current situation after negotiations? What are the goals or what are the main points that we were able to achieve?
Well, actually, the most important thing right now is the Egyptian role. I believe that this is the key point. We've seen that there are several interpretations for the initiative of President Trump himself. And accordingly, the Egyptian role is quite crucial to be able to approach these points of view, different points of view from each other. The vision of the Palestinian resistance is different from the vision of Israel. And actually, we've seen many cases where Israel is working very hard on sabotaging any effort to reach a ceasefire and the swap of prisoners. It's quite clear for the whole international community that Israel do not really care about the safety of its own prisoners. That's why they keep bombarding Gaza, and they keep bombarding especially the places where the hostages might be in. So actually, I'm sorry. So actually, I think that the Egyptian role is very important at this point, and I believe that it's going to be blurry for all of us until we reach a final agreement between both parties.
Well, talking about the ceasefire, how far can this be effective without taking into consideration when it comes to ending the occupation and the withdrawal and entering the humanitarian aid? A lot of things actually that to be taken into consideration. How do you see this part?
Well, actually, I think that once again, the idea of being able to reach any agreement will very much depend on two factors. The first factor is the readiness of the Israeli government to take serious steps toward reaching an agreement, because as I said, not just that they do not agree, but they are even trying to sabotage any efforts aiming to reach a ceasefire and a swap of prisoners. But when it comes to the humanitarian assistance, and this is what Egypt is working very hard on, I think that we have several practical mechanisms that are being pursued right now. Well, the first one, of course, will be the ceasefire, and this will allow the beginning of aid convoys to be entered to move safely to the Gaza Strip. Egypt is trying to coordinate as much as it can the idea of the crossings and the monitored corridors, whether we are talking about Rafah and Karam Abu Salim, with of course the United Nations, which is going to be a major international player, and the ICRC and the IFRC for better inspections and distribution later on. But as I said, it depends on two factors. The first one is the readiness of the Israeli government to take courageous steps, let's call it this way, towards ending the violence in the Gaza Strip. And the second thing is going to be, which everybody has spoken about already, the readiness of President Trump to force Israel to accept the terms that have been agreed on. Let's not forget that he welcomed in clear words on social truth his own social media, when he welcomed the answer provided by Hamas. So that means that he understands that now we are about to reach a new agreement, and all what is left to be done is that Israel should accept these conditions, and if it does not accept them with ease, then here comes the importance of the role of the United States to implement its vision, whether Israel likes or not. And we all know that the only power in the world capable of forcing Israel to comply with any agreement is the United States of America and President Trump in person. So if he does not really push forward his own plan, it won't work, because the acceptance of Hamas on one side and the readiness of Egypt and the efforts of Egypt to try to reach an agreement will go in vain if President Trump do not force Israel to accept. So those are two key points that we have to put in mind when we will reach an agreement, or if, God forbid, we fail to reach an agreement.
But so far, how do you see the current situation when it comes to the idea of reaching an agreement? As we can see, so far Hamas also is accepting all the plan as it is, so as to save the life of the Palestinian civilians in Gaza.
Well, you are totally right. I mean, Hamas have accepted the plan. Of course, it has some reservation on some of its points, especially the ones that are not really clear in the initiative. I mean, we have to understand that there were many steps that were not very clear in the plan as we heard it from President Trump and on various media. And Hamas is ready to implement this, provided that we discuss exactly what exactly is some points meant to mean. And I think that this is a very important thing. But the most important and the foremost and the first step that has to be done is avoiding any escalation from Israel to the current situation, because actually President Trump has said from the beginning that Israel has to stop bombarding Gaza Strip, and the minute that he receives Hamas's answer. But Israel is continuing its military action and is not showing any sign of comprehending the meaning of diplomatic negotiations. I mean, Israel is continuing because, as I said, Israel is not really does not really care about the safety of the hostages, and is very much fixated on the idea of the possibility of annexing the West Bank and also Gaza. And this is the major obstacle towards reaching any agreement. So far, until Israel understands that it has to make a compromise and it has to understand that it's impossible to expel over 2 million Palestinians, until it really understands this point, then we will not really reach an agreement. And this is the major obstacle towards what we are doing. And that's why we are hoping that we will receive also some help from our European friends, who many of them have recognized the state of Palestine. And as we said before, the idea of simply recognizing the state of Israel without implementing concrete steps towards the relation, towards sanctioning Israel in a certain way, if it does not comply, will not help. I mean, we need the whole international community pressure, especially the one of the Europeans, because they are the one also with the United States providing Israel with its armament. And the idea of recognizing the state of Palestine while continuing, as we say, business as usual, and providing Israel with any military equipment that it needs to continue its war in Gaza and in the West Bank, does not mean anything. I mean, the recognition in itself will lose its meaning. So we are also hoping that we will reach a certain understanding with our friends in Europe to put more pressure on Israel to accept the terms imposed by President Trump.
Well, talking about the current situation and on the table regarding the negotiations, Hamas also tackled a very important part. And so far, I want you to tell me more about the idea that the rule or the power or the control must be back to Palestinians, and they have the right to determine their own future. So what is the impact of this? Because as you mentioned in the beginning, talking about the plan and Israel, they were not taking this into consideration. And in the meantime, in front of the whole world, this is the right of the Palestinians without any interference.
Well, I believe that Hamas was very clear when it came to the terms imposed on the Palestinian resistance to reach an agreement. And I believe that Hamas understands that now the safety of the Palestinian people should come first, and that they're cooperating with the. I mean, we didn't hear so far from the Egyptian side that Hamas is not trying to comply with the plan, although there are many unjust points in this plan. Nevertheless, Hamas said that it's ready to leave the political power. There are, of course, some obstacles regarding the weapons of Hamas, because Israel wants totally to demilitarize Hamas and to expel all the Hamas partisans in Gaza, which is not possible. I mean, this is very possible, of course, within a real peace plan where there is a political horizon for the Palestinians to look at. And so far, we did not hear a political horizon for an independent Palestinian state, which is actually basically supposed to be the purpose of all these negotiations that is going on right now in Sharm el-Sheikh. The idea is to take the first step, put our feet on the first step towards a long-lasting peace, and this will not be achieved without a political horizon for the Palestinians. Of course, we have the major obstacle, which is the Israeli veto on any Palestinian independent state, and not accepting the idea of the Palestinian Authority being present in Gaza. And as we all know that we are talking about a certain body that will rule Gaza. So the situation is not as easy as it seems, although there are good intentions, at least from the side of the Palestinian resistance. Nevertheless, how can we ask Hamas and all the other Palestinian fraction of the resistance to drop their weapons while there is no political horizon? And let's here remember what the Israelis did. I mean, many of the Israelis were not just in resistance before 1948. Many of them were involved in terrorist movements, such as CERN and other Israeli movements, and they did horrific things at the time. Many of the leaders of those terrorist groups at the time became later on Prime Minister of Israel, like Mr. Menachem Begin, who signed with President Sadat the peace treaty in 1977, in 1979. So the idea that we should ask the Palestinians to drop their weapons without a political horizon is nonsense, and nobody can ask them to do so. I believe that this is going to be a major obstacle to reaching an agreement right now. But at the same time, if we do not provide the Palestinians with a peace plan that is determined in time, then it's not going to be accepted by any Palestinian.
Right. Ambassador Medhat Miligy, former Assistant Foreign Minister, thank you very much for joining us. And still, we need to talk more about Gaza, and we need to find out more about Gaza as a beautiful city, Gaza talking about the treasures, about the important sites surrounding Gaza. Let's check it out together, then we'll be back with more on The Breakfast Show.
On the